Does anyone know someone that said they'd move out of the United States of America if Trump won that actually did primarily due to it? Hey, so this is part of the Trumptrain to MAGAland series. It's going to be my Trumptrain to MAGAland series where I talk about different things involving US politics, specifically my following and interest with Donald J. Trump. And this is part of a miniseries that is specifically focusing on my watching and observations from the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention that just ended at the time of me recording this. It just ended yesterday. I'm recording this on Friday of the 28th of August. And I just recorded 2 parts before this. You don't have to watch this in any particular order. I shall be releasing these over these next 68 days as we head towards November 3rd, where Trump is going to win his second term as United States president. At least why I'm confident. These videos and this series, I'm recording them to catalog and continue just viewing what's happening. And this is kind of focusing on why I'm rather confident that it is going to happen. Now, this was more a general observation that was not necessarily directly due to something that was said in specific during the actual conventions. But if you think, I came to this thought over the weekend between the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention, seeing some of the people who were speaking there, some of the people who were talking, the celebrities, the way they were talking about the things they were saying about what was going to happen, what they were going to do, or the threat, or the things. And it was like, wait, people literally mean figuratively about a lot of things. Specifically Americans, specifically when it comes to political issues, people literally mean figuratively. They don't say what they actually mean to do. So what are they doing by their actions? A lot of people were talking about, oh, if this happens, this bad thing is going to happen. So we need to prevent this thing from happening. But did they really believe that bad thing was going to happen? People say, oh, if you don't do that, I am going to do this as a threat. But do they actually mean that threat? Where are they standing on this? So I kind of asked this question. Some of these people speaking on that during that Democratic National Convention might have been people who said they would leave. At least there's going to be people who are tweeting about that. There's definitely celebrities and other people who said that. So I kind of posted this and I was like, yeah, what is it? And a few people came back and they said different things. I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand this was bad. Yeah, some people said this. Some people mentioned that they actually moved maybe cities and states. And I've talked about that in a separate video talking about how the right flight is coming, where this was early in this pandemic. And I was talking about just with the shutdowns, there's already going to be people moving and leaving those areas. Now you add the social unrest that has happened in predominantly Democrat-led areas in certain places that have been shut down now for quite some time for other reasons, and now people are starting to weigh other options of moving to other locations and taking advantage of the modern technology to find different ways to live remotely, work remotely, and live in different areas that are cheaper, and just different options and different control, and that is something that is central to the United States of America. That is part of why I want to get back there. That is part of why I object to certain people who talk about the immigration. They're so against movement and things like this. But hey, you're not really that much against the movement within your country. You understand crossing state borders. That imaginary state line is just as imaginary when it comes down to the actual physical location of that line as the line between Mexico and the United States of America, as the line between Canada and the United States of America. Now, there's more that goes into the thoughts and the things behind the people. What are the actual differences? Not just the figurative difference. What are the actual differences between the peoples living in those places? But literally, the physical line does not actually occur. So anyway, coming back to this thing, then I posted this image that's going to be on the screen right now, and it's it's by Secular Talk. Kyle Kolinsky posted this. It said Trump Jr. backstage of the RNC in 2020. And this is a Kermit the Frog snorting some cocaine, and they're talking about just some people hopped up. And this is another thing. You have some people in the media talking about how it's dark and gloomy in the RNC and things like this. When part of why I scored it 3-1, 3 nights to 1 to the Republican National Convention is just simple presentation. Just the way it looked was better. It just seemed livelier. If anything, you could say some parts were ratcheted too high. It was too much. Not that it was dark and somber, but whereas that's going to be something I talk about separately. That was just my general first end of the thing kind of thing without going into the actual details. Just sheer appearance, it seemed to be more upbeat. than the actual Democratic National Convention. So there were certain people that were being told, like, they might have been on some upwards. There may have been some things. And also Trump has kind of joked about that as well. He's talking about with Joe Biden during Joe Biden's speech, like the only way he was able to actually get through that recorded speech that way was due to being on some drugs. Like, he's kind of hinting, he was kind of like, let's actually have a situation where we get tested before the actual debates. So that's neither here nor there for right now. So they're talking about Trump Jr. with this. And then Donald Trump Jr. posted this, and he said, "You must have me confused with Hunter Biden." And this was, of course, a few days after that original post that I put talking about, does anybody know if anyone has left the United States of America or moved due to the situations that are happening in this? And then, as I mentioned, with the whole like right flight type of thing. So I posted that, and I was like, oh, oof, like Trump Jr., you need to stop posting this. Like Joe Biden, as he said during the Democratic National Convention, had already lost a son in a rather unfortunate way. And there's been some issues with Hunter Biden. He's had some complications in the past and some issues with drug abuse and other things. So I was like, oof, like this could lead to Joe Biden losing another son. Like you post this kind of harsh, kind of savage type of stuff out there. And then somebody posted this, a friend of mine posted this in the comment section. And I've met this person. This is a friend of somebody I went to high school with, the wife, and we've met in person. She's just, to me, one of the salt of the earth Americans. Not the sort of American you see on television or you think. This is American. I know people in different places and different things, and this is from her experience, from the things that she's seen. This was her reaction to me posting that actual image. He said, "That is not okay. I am sick of the lack of empathy and humanity. Our country is headed down a dangerous path with such ugliness as the role model. There is no wonder our country is crumbling. Yet all these supporters feel liberated and free to continue to degrade, attack, and kill others because they feel empowered." Then he says, "The husband and I are seriously looking to leave the country." So this was in line with me asking, are people going to leave? So this is not someone, I don't know what political leaning she has, left to right or anything, but this is just I think a regular salt of the earth, just typical American, having her life with her kids and being in the community. I'm pretty sure they still live around family members and things like this, and they're part of the environment. These are not like rich, wealthy people, or these are not like the poorest people you can say on like one side. I think this is just a typical American, and this is what they're observing from the things. Now, how connected it was to the post I was making, that's something else. And this was my response to them. Like, wow, where have you been looking into moving? I am curious. Have you lived elsewhere outside of the United States of America or in different regions? There are some bad things for sure, but I'm out here trying to get back into the country, and my quality of life is rather good where I am. I'm not saying that there aren't other places I'd go as well, nor that there are certain places in the United States of America I would avoid even if I was paid a large amount to go live there. But in general, it's more about how much information about XYZ that is present rather than the increase of XYZ. And with that, if you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere, there's going to be a link on YouTube in the top corner. But if you're watching this somewhere else or hearing this somewhere else, there's some other video that I have which is talking about how suffering can go up. The awareness of suffering goes up. It can seem like suffering has gone up even though the actual occurrence of suffering has gone down, just because we have more information about this. So it's a rather short video, it's about 10 minutes or 12 minutes, where I explain that more. Okay, so back to the reading. I expect there is part of literally meaning figuratively, as in you may not literally think it's going to be the end of the United States of America in a matter of years, but rather a figurative, negative socio-political or cultural direction. There are some issues unique to Trump and current year dynamics that have increased a certain sort of socio-political tensions, but I am unsure what specific things you find so abhorrent to leave over. You say our country is crumbling. Compared to what? 50 years ago in the 1970s, right after the Civil Rights Movement and Vietnam? 75 years ago at the end of the end of the World Wars, when 1 in 8 or something like that of the Americans had been part of the war machine? 100 years ago, during the Great Depression? So that was my general question, and they didn't respond to that, but that's my questions to you out there. The people who say, if Trump wins, I'm going to leave, or now that if Trump doesn't win, I'm going to leave, or Trump must win, or the country's going to be destroyed, the country will be done. What do people think about this? What are they comparing it to? Like I mentioned here, there's other places I've lived in, like specifically Turin, Italy, beautiful city. To me, just the single place I've lived in. I've lived in San Francisco, lived in New York City, DC area, in Nairobi, a few other places, but Turin, Italy. Magnificent, beautiful city. Now, there could be different situations in my life that actually contribute to why I find that place to be a lot more appealing, but it's just a magnificent city. If you've been there, if you're thinking of going to Italy for more than a week, which I think if you're going to travel somewhere, try to do it for at least a week, try to find your way to Turin. Most people go to Rome, but if you're picking a second city, I would suggest Turin. But anyway, so there is that there where I can imagine myself being in that place. But then there's certain things I think about the United States of America, not just having most of my friends there, not just the basis of the kind of people I've met there and the future that I'm thinking that place is going to actually have. There's many reasons for me to actually be trying to get back into the place. Yet some people are saying they're trying to leave. Now I'm saying, like, what are we seeing that's different? Problems occur, different things happen for the same reasons. So there's going to be certain things that someone sees and they're like, okay, that's a reason for me to leave. And that same thing might be a reason for me to be like, I'm going to come there. Maybe because somebody sees that thing and thinks it's insurmountable, yet I'm seeing that from a different angle and be like, wait, if I just do this and that, maybe I'll be able to do away with this thing and then benefit from that thing not being there. Whereas this other person is thinking, no, that thing from this angle, there's no way we're going to stop it. That thing's going to crush me. I got to get out of the way. So that's the kind of thing. I'm thinking from the back, if I push this thing over, it falls down, I'll be able to get around it and go to the future back there, and somebody's thinking, that thing's behind me. If it falls down on me, I'm going to be crushed, so I got to move to the side, and then I could maybe backtrack. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about this. But I'm looking at this from what I've actually seen. If you look at the Republican National Convention, you look at the Democratic National Convention, which of those two conventions made you think this is a country I still want to live in? Or this is a country that's going in a better direction to actually be in, to exist in? I think it seemed to be rather clear to me that the Republican National Convention was more about a positive future, improvement, and then the Democratic National Convention seemed to have a lot of messaging of how bad this place is. Why this place is so bad, you need us in here, or this place will continue being horrible. There was some of that in the Republican National Convention, of course, as well, saying like, hey, yeah, if this happens, if these other people get in, it's going to get worse. It's going to keep getting worse. So they might have just been different ways to talk about this same thing. One person was saying, it's so bad, and we're the only ones who can stop it. The other person was saying, it's going to be so bad if we're not the ones who stop it. So there's different things in there. Let me know what you think. I still think there's going to be people who are watching the Republican National Convention who are more excited about living in America. Living in America. Bam, bam. I don't know the other words. What are the other words to that song? Anyway, it's a James Brown song. So yeah, I think watching the Republican National Convention makes people in general happier about living in America, especially if you are a supporter of Trump. If you are on the midline, I think the messaging that was being given from the Republican National Convention was a lot more pro-America than it was in the Democratic National Convention. Democratic National Convention was more about changing America to something else. Republican National Convention was more about enhancing what America was. I think America is, or whatever. So let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. As I mentioned, still thinking this is more evidence that Trump is going to win in landslide fashion in 2020. It's 68 days from now. There might be things that will change. By the time I even post this, there might have been some things that maybe changed my mind on that, but there's very few things I think would happen to change my confidence towards this. Till next time, goodbye.